Welcome back to the Biblically Inspired Life. You may have noticed on your calendar that Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is fastly approaching, and it's time to start thinking about that. I know that within the homes here in Israel, we're searching through our kitchens, bringing together all of the items which contain leaven, which is chametz in Hebrew, in order to use them up before the holiday begins. We read in the Old Testament, when talking about Passover, that this is the time when we're to remove all leaven from our possession. Now, leaven is equated with sin in the Bible, and we read about it in the Old and New Testaments. So I'd like to challenge you today, as you think about the idea of leaven or sin in your life, how you should deal with it. First of all, during this holiday, we are removing all of the physical chametz or leaven from our possession. So we're going around our homes, we're using up the things that have leaven in them, we're cleaning from room to room to make sure the crumbs and various things are removed from them. And then, right before the holiday begins, or shortly before, we take a candle and we go all around the house looking in all of the little crannies and corners of the house for any chametz that might still be remaining. And I'd like to encourage you today that as you're doing that, as you're thinking about that, to try to see how God would have you remove the sin or leaven in your heart or in your life. So we have the physical aspect of the searching and removal of the leaven, and then we have the spiritual, the praying and seeking God's guidance on the sin that's in our lives. And as we do that, we can be better used for His service. So this is a time for us to really seek out how we can prepare ourselves to better serve the Lord. And I'd like to encourage you with 2 verses of Scripture. The first one is from Luke chapter 12 and verse 15, and it reads, "And he said unto them," and that is Yeshua said unto them, "Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not of abundance of the things which he possesses." So this is a good time for us to clear away those possessions and things which may be holding us back. Sometimes people have so many things that they can't move to a new location where God is perhaps calling them. They can't afford the home that they have because they have so many possessions that they're trying to house. So this is a good time for us to evaluate our physical circumstances. What things are there in our lives that might be burdening us that we need to get rid of and be more useful to the Lord? The second verse is from Hebrews chapter 12, and that's in verse 1. It says, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." So this verse deals with both aspects. It talks about setting aside all of the weights, and it's also talking about the sins which so easily beset us. So whether there are physical and spiritual aspects to our lives that can be holding us back from fully following the Lord and for being used by Him in His plans and purposes for our lives. So during this holiday season of Passover, please, let's pray together that the Lord would show us the sins in our lives or the things in our lives that are holding us back from being truly useful servants of the Lord's. Chag Sameach. And I hope that you'll stay tuned as I have a brief Passover recipe for you. So Chag Pesach Sameach. Well, thanks for joining me for the cooking portion of this video. It's so funny to me to be doing cooking videos with you because that's really not what I'm known for, but in the end, having a few really good recipes makes cooking simple. So today we're going to make a tzimmes recipe. That's Tzimmes recipe, which we make every year for Passover. Now, since Passover is less than a week away, I'm going to be making a very small portion. But if you use several sweet potatoes and carrots and so forth, you can make a really nice 9 by 13 dish of it, which will last for either a few days or will feed a large crowd at your Seder table. So the first thing I've done is I've already got the sweet potatoes boiling on the stove. For me, it's easier to do it this way, and then I'll cut open the skins and scoop out the sweet potatoes. So the next thing I'm going to do is prepare the carrots, and as you can see, I don't have very many carrots up here, so you know that I'm not going to be making a huge amount. So I have my carrots, they're washed, and something to put the remains in, and so I will just cut off the ends, and I'll begin peeling each one of them. And you'll do this for all your carrots, and then once those are ready, you'll put those in some water and you'll boil them until they're soft. And once I have the sweet potatoes and the carrots ready, then I'll show you the next steps to make this very simple dish. So I'll be back in a few minutes. While we're waiting for the carrots and the sweet potatoes to finish boiling and softening, I thought I would take a moment to speak to you about the kosher laws within Orthodox Judaism. Now, I'm not here to debate whether this is right, whether this is wrong, whether it's biblical, whether we need to do it or not. I'm just explaining what they are. So, within Judaism, we separate meat dishes from dairy dishes. So like here in my kitchen, you'll see I have dairy dishes up here, and then over here I have my meat dishes. And the cooking pots and pans are also separate. So that would be a lot of dishes, a lot of pots and pans, because then you would have a third set just for Passover. So what a lot of people do is they either use plastic and disposable things, or in the case of baking, like what I'm going to be doing today with this dish in the last step, they will use these aluminum pans. Now I happen to have these long and narrow ones, but there's all different shapes and sizes, especially here in Israel, and so a lot of people use those. And so that is something that's very simple to use. Then you already have them in these pans. You can stick them in the oven to warm them up or to cook them. And then in the end, you just throw them away. So that's one way that we deal with Passover and the cooking and all of the dishes and all of the utensils and things that are necessary. And I did want to show you today, just to give you an idea, we have only 3 people total eating Shabbat dinner with us this week, and so I'm just making this small dish of the tzimmes. So when the ingredients are ready, I'll be back and we'll finish up this dish. Hi, welcome back. I just checked the sweet potatoes and the carrots and they're ready. So let's get started on the rest of the recipe. I'm going to begin by draining the carrots, and I have this great little strainer. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but it's great. It stores flat, and then you just push it open, and you've got your strainer. So thank you to one of my daughters for getting that. So I'm straining these out. And I'm going to put them in this bowl right here that already is going to have some margarine here, margarine in the bottom of it. So I'm going to pour the real hot carrots on there and let that start melting. And then I'm going to take the sweet potatoes off the oven and drain them. Now they are still in their full form inside the skins. I'm going to let them cool for a few minutes while I do the rest of the recipe. So I'm going to sit it right here to cool. And I'm going to show you the rest of the ingredients. First of all, brown sugar. Now, I don't have regular brown sugar, so this is a lighter one called Demerara. That's a good guess anyway. And you're supposed to put about 1/4 cup in. So that's a little more, I think, but there you go. And I'm going to put some cinnamon. Now, I want to tell you, there are probably as many recipes for simmus as there are Jewish people in the world. So this is just how I make it. I was looking on the internet. I make it to have more of the consistency of mashed potatoes. But there are other people who just have the ingredients cut up, and so it's, cubed sweet potatoes and carrots and so forth. So, what you put in it and how it tastes and the consistency of it is all up to you. But for me, I like to make it in a sort of a mashed potato form and use all the ingredients that way. So right now, I'm going to mash up the carrots with the margarine and the brown sugar and cinnamon. And in a moment, I'll be back to show you the consistency of that. I've now taken the sweet potatoes out and I've mashed up the carrots and margarine. So let's see if I can show you a little bit of that's what the carrots look like with the margarine. You can see there's still some chunkiness to it, so it will give a little bit more texture to the recipe. Now, the simple thing to do is to just take your fork and run it along the skin of the sweet potato, like this, to open the top, and then just push the sides down. And that's the easiest way I find to do this. And then I just take a spoon and I scoop it out and put it into the mixture. So here we have it, and we just put it in. Look how easily that comes out. If you just make sure that you boil it long enough, then it will do this. If you don't boil it long enough, then it's still hard inside. It doesn't scoop out nicely. Now you can still use it, but you're going to have a chunkier simmus, and then when you put it in the oven for the final baking of it, it'll cook through. But this is to have a more soft consistency, which is what we tend to like. So I have the sweet potato in here now, and I've already, like I said, I have the other ingredients, and so now all I have to do is mix this up thoroughly so that you have the margarine, the sweet potatoes, the carrots, the cinnamon, and the brown sugar all mixed together uniformly. Now the last thing that we're going to do, once we put this in the pan over here, the only thing that we have left to do is we're going to put some plums on top, some dried plums, pitted dried plums. So I'm sure you have those in the US and Canada and some of the other areas. I'm not sure about all of the other areas of the world, but I'll show you how I like to put them on, and then I'll explain why. So I have the mixture mixed up, It's like a thick mashed potato. And you can fill it near the top of the pan because it doesn't, you know, it's not like it expands and it's going to go over the pan or anything like that. So, thankfully, I have the right amount. You don't always know if it's going to work out that way, but this time it did. So I just smooth it in here, like so. Very simple to do. And the final thing I do is I take these dried pitted plums and I put them on top. Now how I like to do it, and I'll show you, is to put them pretty close together. And the reason is when you dip this out, you know, a serving of it, when you dip it out, it will each serving will get a plum in it, which adds a lot of sweetness, and it just really adds a lot to the flavor. So here's the last bit there, and this is what it looks like. Let me get that even. This is what it looks like. And then beforehand, before we serve it, we'll put it in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, just a normal temperature, you know, 190 degrees Celsius, maybe about 350 or so Fahrenheit. And, you know, 20 to 30 minutes, warm it up thoroughly and everything. And then you just serve it with your meal. So this is a very simple, kosher for Pesach, meaning it's leaven-free, that you can serve. And like I said, this is a small one, but you can, this was with 2 sweet potatoes that were decent sized and 3 carrots, and this is what you get with it. So this is something for everyone, and it's simple and it's inexpensive. So I hope that you enjoy it. Have a wonderful Passover, and I'm hoping to be able to share a couple more recipes with you during this holiday. Chag Sameach.